Today, we're going to be talking about Clavicular's controversial visit to Israel. For those of you who don't already know, I am from Israel. I spent most of my life there. And I think it's really interesting to see him visit. And I kind of want to review bits and pieces of his trip, but also share some of my own controversial takes surrounding it. So let's jump right into it. If you don't already know who Clavicular is, Brandon Peters, he is 20 years old. He goes by Clavicular Online. That is his internet persona, and he is one of the biggest names in the looksmaxing community. Looksmaxing is an online subculture built entirely around optimizing one's physical appearance, sometimes even through genuinely extreme means. Clavicular himself has reportedly practiced something called bone smashing. It is when you strike your face or your jaw with a hammer in an attempt to reshape your bone structure. That is the baseline seriousness of what we are dealing with. So for a little extra context, in January of this year, Peters was filmed in Miami at a nightclub with a group that included Nick Fuentes, who I talk about a lot, but he is, self-identified as a white nationalist. He was alongside the Tate brothers and other manosphere figures and singing along to Kanye West's Heil Hitler. When the backlash hit, Peters didn't walk it back. He said, quote, "I am not sorry. I don't apologize for what I did, and I would do it again today." So that's the resume. Anti-Semitic, and I don't like using that word because I do feel like it's lost its value, but genuinely anti-Semitic karaoke, a public persona built entirely around jaw lines and cheekbones. And a few months later, he's showing up in Tel Aviv. And that is the trip that I really want to speak about, because the way it's been handled by pretty much everybody involved tells you a lot more about bad judgment than it does about anti-Semitism. So what happens next is where it gets genuinely strange, because Israel did not have a reaction to this guy. It had two completely opposite reactions happening at the exact same time. If you know anything about Israel, there's the saying, 2 Jews, 3 opinions, so it's pretty common. On one hand, Israeli influencer Aaron Morali spotted Peters at a beach club, recognized him, and got him thrown out, saying, and I'm quoting the caption here, "We don't need any anti-Semites here." Multiple club owners reportedly did the same thing, and some partygoers apparently threatened him over the Miami footage. On the other hand, a senior advisor to Prime Minister Netanyahu was filmed hanging out with Peters, Clavicular, at a different Tel Aviv nightclub. A Chabad influencer named Yossi Farol had already been courting him for weeks, at this point gifting him a necklace combining the Star of David with a OpenAI ChatGPT logo, which I thought was really stupid, but I guess kind of sweet. And he was posting this video describing the biblical Joseph as, I kid you not, the first looksmaxer. So within a span of 48 hours, you have Israelis physically removing this guy from venues for being an anti-Semite, as they claimed, and you have a government advisor and a rabbi treating him like a VIP. See, that is not a strategy. That is an institution with zero idea what it's doing, reacting to a viral moment in real time with no coordination whatsoever. And honestly, that's very Israeli. Now, here's the part of the story that I think deserves way more scrutiny than the apology demand headline got. Because buried in all of this is a genuinely serious lapse, and it has nothing to do with a Kanye song. Shira Braun runs the IDF's official spokesperson unit TikTok account. That is the military's public diplomacy arm. She appeared repeatedly in Peter's live streams during this trip. He reportedly sought to touch and kiss her on camera, which is not like Clavicular to do. I mean, part of his whole shtick is to degrade women and really be involved in this party lifestyle scene. Although he is a very awkward character, I feel like he is the perfect marriage of a narcissism and autism. So he surrounds himself with all of these women. And that's just part of his entire shtick. And he talked about taking Shira to a hotel. And there's reports of discussions around payment for pro-Israel content. Now, she has since apologized, and the IDF has stated that she will face disciplinary action. But even that part is a bit murky, with some outlets saying that it's real discipline and others are calling it damage control theater, essentially. That, to me, is the actual story that we have here. Not whether a looksmaxing streamer says sorry on camera for a song. Whether an active duty soldier running official military messaging should have been anywhere near this guy's stream in the first place. Now it is Israel. You got the young people running everything, including in the IDF. Social media is not that much different, but still, I think there could have been a little bit more calculation. People could have proceeded with a bit more caution. But again, one of the biggest criticisms of Israel is its sloppy messaging, or its overall sloppiness. It's quite sloppy in the way it goes about things, and so it kind of lines up. If you're looking for where Israel's PR apparatus has failed here, it's not who got kicked out of the beach club. It's who got invited onto a live stream with a guy famous for filming women without much regard for how it makes them look. Now check this out.
know what everybody in Israel is talking about right now, right?
Well, everyone in Israel is talking about, what we're doing that's good. So for you to kind of start the interview off in like a negative manner doesn't really make sense. We came here after a ceasefire ended in a very unstable state, technically, to kind of show that, Israel's a safe place. So for you to start off in an antagonistic way, I'm really, kind of just confused.
But how can you not talk about the song?
Poor journalist
Just tell
tactic. No. So if you're going to be negative, and ask about like old situations that are not so positive, then I really don't want to talk to you.
Last January is not that old. You got kicked out of the club. So why not clean the page?
So why not? So why don't you clean the page and talk about how much I've done for this country's reputation, because it's in utter shambles. You go on any social media page, the amount of propaganda among Gen Z and misconceptions, so that's what's doing the real damage, right? Not anything I've done. That we're here trying to set everything straight. I don't have to be in Israel, and quite frankly, if you're like, this is the most ridiculous thing ever. I don't want to be talking to someone who's going to be rude.
We understand, but there's an online backlash,
Because I'm here to do good things. I'm here for a good thing, and you're trying to drag me through the mud and give me reputational damage. So quite
what's
honestly,
wrong with apologizing about singing Heil Hitler?
No, this interview is
just
over.
apologize.
That's so ridiculous. I just find that and it's so Israeli. Why don't you apologize? Achi, why don't you apologize for singing the song? Do you love Israel? And this is why Israel gets such a bad rap so many times, is because of moments like this. See, here's the problem with that. You can't treat this person as someone whose apology matters. And this is where they're getting it wrong. Everybody in this video is an idiot. Clavicular is an idiot. This news guy, anchor, he's an idiot. Clavicular is not doing some great thing for the country, as he is claiming, although it is some good PR for people to be able to see, oh, Clavicular, the party guy that is super crazy famous on the internet, is in Tel Aviv having a great time. That's great, but he's giving himself a little bit more credit than he's due. And on the other side, the anchor is giving Clavicular's apology so much more weight than it actually has. You cannot treat this person as someone whose apology matters, as someone with a real ideological position that needs correcting, when the entirety of his public output says the opposite. This is someone who has openly said he would judge world leaders' fitness for office based on how they look. He famously said that he would choose Gavin Newsom as president over J.D. Vance, regardless of their ideologies, regardless of where he leans politically. It's all about looks. It's entirely superficial. That is not a person operating from belief. That is a person who makes noise because noise gets views. Singing along to a shock song is not a confession of Nazi sympathies from a guy like this. It's the same impulse that has him hitting himself in the face with a hammer to chisel out a jawline. It's content, it's not conviction. When you sit him down and you demand contrition like he's a public official walking back a policy, you're not holding him accountable. You're handing him a legitimacy and seriousness he has never once earned or claimed for himself. You've made him the main character of a geopolitical story when the honest headline was always just an unserious person does unserious things, gets kicked out of a club for it. End of a story. And here's where I think a lot of people watching would want to stop me. I'm not saying just ignore the Nazi stuff, he's just a clown, so that somehow makes it fine. That is not the argument. Listen carefully to what I'm actually saying. If Clavicular is too unserious for the Miami stunt to represent a real ideological commitment, and I think he clearly is, then he is equally too unserious for anything else he says or does to be treated as meaningful either. That includes the reporting that's come out of his own stream, where he has claimed, and to be clear, this is unconfirmed, it comes only from him, that people close to Bibi Netanyahu reached out for his input on how to make Bibi look more appealing to younger voters. If that's true, even in part, ask yourself the obvious question. Why would anyone want the opinion of someone this unserious on anything, let alone on how the Prime Minister of Israel should be presented himself? You don't get to say this guy's judgment is too shallow to hold against him for singing a Nazi anthem and then turn around and treat his approval as an asset worth courting. That's not consistency. That's just picking whichever conclusion is convenient in the moment. And the inconsistency matters more here because of who's involved. Netanyahu is, to put it mildly, a divisive figure. There are people, including reportedly some of Clavicular's own friends, we know, like Sneeko and Nick Fuentes and the Tate brothers, who call him a war criminal outright. Whether or not you agree with that characterization, it should tell you something that even a chunk of this guy's apolitical, looks-obsessed audience baked at the edge of him getting anywhere near legitimizing Netanyahu. If your own fan base thinks that the association is toxic, that's not a great sign for the let's use this guy as an asset strategy. So what should Israel's PR machine have actually done here? Honestly, nothing. Nothing at all. The correct read on this entire situation was always the boring one. This is a 20-year-old whose entire career is built on content, not conviction. He does is a genuinely real political act, not the Nazi karaoke in Miami, and not any alleged consulting with the prime minister's office either. The mistake was never that he sang along to a bad song in the club. The mistake is that multiple people on completely opposite sides of this, the government advisor courting him, the rabbi gifting the necklace, and the journalist demanding his contrition on camera, all made the same exact category error. They decided independently that this person's opinions and actions carry real world weight. They don't. And the second you engage with them as though they do, whether that's inviting him to help you rebrand your prime minister or putting him in front of a camera to extract a formal apology, you've lost the plot entirely. You've turned a guy who hits his own face with a hammer to get jaw definition into a geopolitical talking point. That's not a win for anybody. It's just bad judgment dressed up as strategy on one side and dressed up as accountability journalism on the other. There's a lesson that I would take from this entire circus. It's this. Unseriousness is unseriousness all the way through. You don't get to selectively apply it depending on whether the outcome is convenient for your side. Either treat him like he actually is a clout-chasing 20-year-old with no coherent worldview, or don't engage with him at all. What you don't get to do is both. Let me know what you think in the comments if there was something I missed. If you disagree, I would love to hear about it. And if you found this useful, please subscribe because I will be continuing to bring forth these kinds of stories and commentary right to your screen. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.